Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Nite Misfortune bringing you the season final for the SCS 2021 Winter Circuit, brought to you by OSS, of course. We are in our very first match, and it is a very interesting match indeed if you've been paying attention to the cards and kind of the statistics before the match. The map is, of course, Way Station Zeta. Let's go ahead and introduce our players, starting with the man to your right, or sorry, left. I'm already messing up my directions. It's still a bit early. Give me a break. It is, of course, Zadayka, our yellow UEF commander. He is opening up with one air and one land factory and going into a little bit of a mass expand to his rear mass extractor expansion point. Of course, this is Way Station Zeta. Mass is fairly plenty on this map, so I expect both players to be grabbing lots and lots of mass fairly early on. Zadayka is scouting his opponent, who is our blue UEF commander with the name of Fortuna, who has opened up with a triple factory opening, one air and two lands here for our man, who is our favorite type of tuna and our favorite type of kid shoe. That's the latest development if you haven't been paying attention. So of course these two players are very, very interesting, and we have a mirror matchup. We have two mirror matchups this morning to get us going, and we have 4 in total. This is of course the wildcard round for the tournament. Basically what that means is there isn't a true round of 16, it's just a round of 8 basically before the quarterfinals. So we already have 4 players in that quarterfinal, and they are waiting to see who they're going to be facing. And the winner of this match will have to face against Polar Bear, which is not an easy task at all, but it's going to be a nice practice for them both because it is a UEF versus UEF match here. After this, we have another scout from Zadayka, who I think wants to try and win an air fight really quickly, but there's lots of anti-air here. Zadayka sees this and is gonna back right back up and gonna build that second land factory to start trying keeping up with Fortuna. But Fortuna is building a lot of anti-air. I'm not sure if he's scouted. I haven't noticed him scout, so he might think this is a double air factory, because right before this match started, Zadayka was asking if they were going to be doing a 2 air factory build opening every time, which he said would be boring. So maybe a little bit of mind games going on here, and I think Fortuna really should have scouted. I don't think he should believe what Zadayka is saying, because I haven't casted Zadayka too much, but I do know, I would think that he's a trickster at the very least. So very interesting indeed. Zadayka, of course, has been having a really great season, especially in the last half. He has basically gone undefeated, I think, in the last maybe 5 matches, and that's not even talking about the 2v2s. Of course, he has won both the 2v2 league and he's won the 2v2 tournament that we had last weekend. So he's coming off of 2 big wins and then a lot of wins in the league, so he is definitely feeling the kind of on a roll, and probably will have a lot of confidence in this first match at the very least, because this is his map. Of course, being the higher seeded player, qualifying from that second spot from Liga B, he has banned and picked the map first, and he banned, I believe, Kai, which I was really, really sad about, because I was hoping players would play that map. But I get it, it's an experimental map, it's a smaller map also, so. But then again, if he doesn't want to play air, then why is he banning it? You know, I feel like that's not a very air map, but who knows? We haven't really tested it. Of course, we are introducing the map mods now. In the next season, we will have 2 modded maps, and we'll see how well that works. Hopefully that introduces even more variety and hopefully even more balance. We have this engineer over here from Fortuna getting bombed. It's going to take a while with just 1 bomber, but Fortuna is going to choose to engage here. Very interesting decision here. I think the Air Force is balanced here, but Fortuna obviously has a little bit of a better reinforcing path. So he does manage to win this air fight. Fortuna grabbing a very quick lead here in the air, but Zadayka is transitioning hard into land. He already has plenty of tanks. He's built no anti-air, and if I were Zadayka, I would capitalize on this and push right away, because you don't want to give Fortuna the opportunity to start building up even more. There's already demolishers coming out for Fortuna, so I think we see where those research points are being spent. Zadayka should know that, so maybe that is what is deterring him from pushing out. Maybe he wants to transition back into air, but that is not the case. He's going to be plopping down one more land factory and is going to be probably counting on an all-in push here in the next minute or so. His tanks are beginning to move out, and Fortuna does have a radar here, so he should have this on his vision. I would expect there to be a shield coming up on this forward land factory, maybe even a point defense here. I would even stop air production at this point. I don't think he even sees. There is actually something cooking in that factory. It is actually an engineer, so he should be able to tell that it's an engineer. There's P-shields coming out already, and I'm really curious to see where Zadayka has been spending his research points, because we haven't seen any tech progression, and I forgot to check the training on his Air Force. Fortuna is very well aware here. His radar is giving him coverage of that. He's going to move his army to reposition it to counter this push by Zadayka on the bottom. And Zadayka's not going to find too much here unless he continues going back. But honestly, the more you go back, the more you have issues with reinforcements and you can get caught out of position. But this is a very juicy find. There's a lot of energy generators. I'm not sure why Fortuna is building so much energy. It's probably to prep for an experimental, I'm guessing, because normally if you're going to stick with this kind of land spammy build, you don't really need that much energy. So I'm a little surprised that he's choosing to do so. Pulls back his forces, and this is where that research has been going. The afterburners have been researched, and Fortuna can probably tell this is happening because these tanks are just moving at ungodly speeds, and they're gonna catch Fortuna out of position here. Although they are fairly close to each other, I think this at least one land factory will go down, and it's kind of fortunate because this is the one with the shield on it. E-shield rolls out, goes the right direction. That's good control of the rally point by Fortuna, and I would re-engage here while the tanks are firing on that factory. And it looks like there isn't too much ground firing units here from Fortuna, although the demolishers do connect a little bit here with the tank force, and we have our first damage dealt as the radar and forward land factory gets picked off. We have 5 land factories from Zadayka, and we have, oh my goodness, Fortuna actually managed to spam a lot of land factories. That is 5, 6, 7. He had 7 back down to 6. And yeah, Fortuna is going to try and push here. Of course, he has quite a bit of P-shields here, quite a bit of demolishers, and Zadayka is going to continue splitting. Fortuna should be a little careful here, because obviously this has afterburners. If you're not going to go back, you really need to go forward. Yes, that's absolutely the correct choice. Fortuna is also going to pull back a little bit of his reinforcements, but there's a lot of land here already for Zadayka, and honestly, I don't like how little anti-ground units he has here. The demolishers aren't too dependable, and he has, I think, 2 tanks in this whole composition. I think that's going to be actually 4 tanks, but that's going to be very difficult for him to deal with. There's no MMLs, and Zadayka is going to bring back his land force here and is going to try and pincer this army, which I love, absolutely, but he might not even need to, because again, there's just no land firing units in this composition. There's not enough damage here, and this is, again, I see this over and over again. Fortuna, who has been playing in the SCS for so long, I feel like should know that this is not a great composition here, strongly relying on P-shields and demolishers, and that's very micro-heavy composition that depends not only on your ability to get really good shots on, and microing your shields at the very least, but also on your opponent's ability to dodge and demolishers. And I feel like when you're playing in such a high level, you want to devalue those very, very high risk strategies, because it's just very, very hard to control, obviously, because you don't have too much say in what's going to happen. Is that a conquer there? And after all of this whole army falls, only trading for one land factory. So you could say they are fairly equal on what they have traded, but no, because again, Fortuna lost that army, and there's even more demolishers here. I don't know, maybe this composition works for him, but I think Zadayka is more than capable of microing around this this army and this demolisher fire. And we do have, we actually do have, I missed this completely, hopefully you caught that on the map, but we have a bunch of rockets that made their way back. They're actually shielded now. There's only 2 bombers here working on it. They managed to take out this whole expansion, so Fortuna's position is looking worse and worse. There's bombers from Zadayka now also coming out here. Where are the wasps from Fortuna? He needs to pull them. He's bringing them up forward, but here we have again the problem of there's just absolutely not enough. There's nothing that can connect with the army of Zadayka, and these demolishers are not paying off for Fortuna. He's losing just simply way too much here, and pretty soon Zadayka will feel comfortable pushing out. There's already anti-air on these factories prepared, and there's no wasps though, so these bombers will go down ultimately. But if I was Fortuna, I wouldn't even be pushing out here. Honestly, I feel like Fortuna let his lead go in this match. If he just built tanks and demolishers and LP shields, I think he would have been much better off here. But yeah, he's just losing just a little bit here, a little bit there, and unfortunately not getting anything done for his troubles. So does manage to pick off these bombers out of position with his wasps. So nice little bit of control between air and land. But now his expansions have fallen. He's now at the very least 5 mass extractors behind, 4 mass extractors behind. And you know, the longer this game goes, I think the worse it's gonna get, unless Fortuna goes back and tries to turtle it a little bit. And again, I feel like demolishers work better as a defensive unit than an offensive unit, especially with all these shields on the factories. And yeah, I think that, and this tank force is still alive, by the way. These shields regenerate on these tanks quickly enough that these bombers really don't even have an impact over here. And Zadayka is going to even split here. And where's the commander? I feel like the commander needs to be back here at the very least. Something needs to take care of these tanks, or else they're going to slowly whittle away at Fortuna's base here. And there is a fight here on the front end again. And now Zadayka has P-shields of his own, and now it is very, very troublesome. And Fortuna is going to have just an absolutely the most difficult time dealing with this composition from Zadayka, which is much more ground heavy, ground firing heavy, I should say. Is that anti-air I see? I think that is anti-air on those demolishers. Nope, it's not. It's just fire from wasps. Alright, so Fortuna is going to pull back. I think he should have done this a little earlier. I really don't... Oh my goodness, these tanks are still here. They have done absolutely catastrophic damage. These 10 tanks, I think, or maybe 12 tanks that have gone back here have taken out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6... Sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 mass extractors. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 energy generators. That is absolutely devastating. 12 tanks basically for almost the same amount of mass extractors. That is absolutely insane. Fortuna definitely underestimated how strong these tanks are, and I think he definitely needed to send more units to deal with that. 10th mass extractor does go down. I think I'm losing count because that doesn't sound right. 7, 8, 9, 9th mass extractor. And he's still trying to be aggressive here. I like Fortuna. He always tries to be aggressive, no matter how slim his chances are. His demolisher shots all whiff, and that is exactly what I'm talking about. when I say that Demolishers are just so unreliable, and Zadayka is now transitioning into just an ungodly amount of research generators, and from here on out, I mean, we could transition into AC1Ks, which is a very possible and very good transition from UEF, of course. And it's going to probably spell a very quick end for Fortuna, who hasn't really been building air anymore, and his air factory actually has fallen here too in those last couple of tank shots. So very grim prospects here for Fortuna. And while we have just a little bit of a pause here, I will remind you guys to please consider donating to the prize pool. Of course, I am matching all the donations, and if we reach, I think if we reach $10, I think we can do a prize pool, because that will be obviously 20. And once again, that really is because not only does your donation, when you donate, it gets taken out a certain percentage, but also when I transfer the funds to the players as a reward through PayPal or for whatever, there is a baseline fee, and then there's also a percentage that gets taken out. So if there's a little amount, it basically gets whittled down even more, and it's not even worth it, because I mean, you're just not going to be able to afford anything, and most of it gets taken out anyway. There's engagement here. Bombers coming in, getting a nice shot actually on the units that are outside the shields. That is absolutely unacceptable, I think, right now, to have shields, or sorry, units that are out of shield at this point, because that is basically your whole entire strategy. Actually, Zadayka's shields have been going down, so the Demolishers have been doing their job. Fortunately, now there's enough air from Zadayka to engage here head-on without the need for anti-air, and I think he's going to make a quick end of these last remaining wasps from Fortuna, which aren't really even a threat at this point, but I think he wants to protect his bombers, which are still trying to whittle down the shields, but honestly, there's just not enough bombers to be breaking through that. He needs to rely on these mobile missile launchers and tanks, but tanks honestly don't. The reason why tanks don't do great against shields is because they need to engage, obviously, and with these demolishers, that's kind of difficult to do, especially when your shields are falling so quickly. I'm honestly surprised that Zadayka's shields are falling so quickly to these demolisher shots, because he has a lot of P-shields, so I wonder why that was happening. Yeah, but now he's going to engage head-on. I think this is absolutely correct. He has also picked a very good location to do it, because Fortuna can't micro around these tanks too well. He has to go straight back. So, well, actually for tanks that's pretty good. But that's actually bad for Zadayka, because the demolishers will fire, and Zadayka doesn't have as much room to micro. That's actually how his shields, I think, were down here earlier, because there's such a small area that the demolishers have to fire. There's another upgrade. Something has gone onto those tanks again. This death ball is growing even bigger. I imagine it's Gauss cannon at this point. No, I don't think it is. I'm not sure what it is. But he does activate afterburners. The shields are down, which regenerate right in time. If those bombers got through the shields, that would have been very bad for Fortuna. Fortuna needs to do something here. What is he doing to transition further into game? Of course, he can't really do anything, because he's lost most of his core mass extractors, and even some mass extractors over here. There's an engineer that has gone down, so if this expansion goes down, Fortuna is not even going to be able to rebuild it for a very long time. And even though he's still up on land production, I think it is now the air that he has to worry in the long term. And there's now a fanboy going to be being built, or maybe it's actually a jackhammer by this point. Honestly, that is a very big possibility, because we are so late. It's actually 23 minutes into the game. We do see a little bit of lag here, because I'm guessing because of Fortuna's wonderful computer, as you guys know. He's not researching field engineers, Jaywix. You gotta calm yourself. Of course, there's chat going on in the background, so I do try and pay attention, but obviously there's a 5-minute streaming delay, so I do apologize for that. I can't really engage with you guys as much as I would hope, but since we are running a big tournament such as this, a streaming delay is absolutely necessary. Look at this lag. Fortuna's PC is struggling, his army is struggling, his shields are struggling to stay up, and his demolishers are struggling to connect. It's a day of struggle for our blue UEF commander, unfortunately, as Zadayka is now going to send his air to the top right here and start bombing these mass extractors here right after Fortuna manages to rebuild his core mass extractors. And what is cooking up in this factory? It is a jackhammer, so I was kind of correct. There's just a lot of research here, and I think he's been killing enough for him to be able to do that. But I'm curious to see how well his jackhammer does versus shields. Of course, one shot when the shields are down is just going to destroy like 75% of this army, which is clumped up as it is. And look at this. It's just has the amount of times that these demolishers will connect is so slim with Zadayka's good micro, but the the probability of them hitting twice in a row, which is what you need if you want to try doing actual damage to these units, is even lower. And it's just, you know, demolishers are great. I love demolishers when they connect, but the problem is I feel like these players are too good for them to connect. And again, you have to not only let them connect, but you have to let them connect twice, and probably even more at this point, because there's just so many upgrades on these units. Let's see, the rocket is at 2300. There are no rocket. Oh, there's one rocket in here. I'm surprised. It's actually at 1900. So Zadayka has the upgrades on his veteran C as well. There's a bombing run coming in here. The shields are down, so these bombs are going to connect straight to the center. Look at those units just melting away. So many health bars going to red. And I think this is the end of our blue commander here in game one. Unfortunately, Fortuna, I feel like he's let go of a, maybe not a huge lead, but of a very, very solidly sized lead. And his unit composition, while probably good in most cases against most people, but against the top 12 of the winter season, maybe it is not. So that is game one. Zadayka asks, where are the chess? They were trying to play chess while they were waiting. But that is only game one, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to go to game two, where Fortuna will try to bring it right back on his map pick. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Game 2 of the SCS Winter Season Final 2021 edition. In the top left-hand corner, you have the leader of the series so far going up 1-0 on Way Station Zeta. It is our yellow UEF commander with the name of Zadayka, and he is starting off with 2 land factories. Of course, that is something that is pretty standard for this map. You absolutely have to get your land, but as UEF I have seen air openings, but that is not the case for him or his opponent. In the bottom right, we have spawning in as the green UEF commander, the man that needs a good showing here to come back and send this game to a tiebreaker. It is Fortuna, who's starting off with a triple land factory build, a nice aggressive build, and again he's choosing P shields. Let's see which damaging units he chooses this time. We already have mobile missile launchers coming out for Zadayka's. Zadayka's, yes, there's multiple of him. Sometimes that feels like it with how much harass he's able to do with some of these flanking maneuvers. There is going to be a third land factory coming for Zadayka, but it is going to be a little late, and there's no expansion for Fortuna, so this is going to be an all-in style build. He does see this coming on radar with his engineer, but the problem is, again, there's shields coming out for Fortuna. Instead of ground firing units, there are now tanks and a mobile missile launcher, so that's going to be pretty good here, but well, P shields are good. P shields are good for sure. So this is going to be difficult to deal for Zadayka for sure, but again, the lack of ground firing units, and the longer it goes for the aggressive player, the more likely that the defending player will be able to reinforce his army with enough units to be able to deal with it. Zadayka is going to respond with his commander and his army. He's not afraid of this push. He's actually going to try and meet it head on here in the middle, probably to minimize the impact of these mobile missile launchers, and is going to try and protect his buildings here. And still no expansion from Fortuna. He is sending his engineer forward to repair his ACU, and Fortuna again is not really sure what he wants to do, and that is not a good sign here for the later game, because they are fairly equal on all places except for those expansion points. I would have loved to see Fortuna just expand a little bit. I think he definitely had enough mass for at least 1 or 2 more mass extractors here, no matter what his strategy is. He might be looking to take this center position here with his ACU to build a land factory, but honestly that is such a tricky place to build, and unless you're absolutely sure you can hold it, which the longer this game gets, I don't think Fortuna can be. It's a dangerous place to set up, because obviously if you lose it, you're losing a very big portion of your reinforcement capabilities. And again, there's just not enough ground firing units, and those shields do go down, which is why I was a little hesitant as to the amount of them going out. The engineer actually goes down very, very quickly as Zadayka goes straight under the shields, and I think Fortuna knows that this has just been maybe not lost, but I do think this has been lost here, unfortunately, for Fortuna. He has lost the majority of his land forces, and his tanks will soon turn onto his commander. He's going to try and go for a draw here, I think, as he's trying to focus down Zadayka's ACU, microing around it, but unfortunately there's just now a lot of tanks coming out from Zadayka from all directions. It's going to be very, very difficult to deal with for our main commander. The DPS is simply going to be bigger for Fortuna. He did put in an upgrade on his ACU, but so did Zadayka. It's actually closer than I thought it was, but Fortuna is in red first. This might be a draw, ladies and gentlemen, but there's Honker from Zadayka, and I don't think that this is going to be a draw. Oh my goodness, that is absolutely insane. Zadayka is not going to go down thanks to that Honker, and that is going to be a 2-0 for our yellow player from Russia, who's going to move on to the quarterfinal to face Polar Bears in another UEF versus UEF matchup. This has been only game 1, ladies and gentlemen. We still have 3 wonderful games coming your way. The next one will start in roughly an hour. Thank you guys so much for watching. We will be back very, very soon for that second semifinal. Congratulations to Zadayka, and thank you for Fortuna for playing. I know he hasn't had too much practice before this final, but nevertheless, I think he did pretty well given the circumstances. Thank you very much, guys, and we will see you in the next match. If you're still watching, give a thumbs up to this video. If you liked the video, leave a comment. If you loved the video, please subscribe. And if you are blown away by it, check out my Patreon page. This has been Nite. Take care and peace out.